And there also seems to be some confusion, Franco, doesn't there, about how this would affect the DACA, the young people, in terms of new policy. Could you explain that as well?
Sure. DACA. So these proposals do specifically, or these orders specifically do say that DACA is protected. However, that hasn't calmed people's concerns so much because, one, in other parts of the order, it also says that there will be no protected class. And these orders also go on to say that they expand the definition of who is a criminal immigrant. Not only do you have to be convicted of a crime, you could be charged with a crime. You can actually also be believed to be committed a crime. So it's a wide swath of people who could be targeted. DACA is mentioned. However, there are some conflicting statements there also. Also, we've all seen some of the leaked reports about potentially ending DACA. So there's still, big question marks out there about DACA.
Well, the new DHS memos come on the heels of Friday's arrest of Daniel Ramirez Medina in Washington state. Ramirez has permission to live and work in the United States under President Obama's program, DACA, or Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. His arrest alarmed immigrant communities who fear the Trump administration could soon target other DACA recipients. This is Paul Quiñones of the Washington DREAM Act Coalition.
If any of us had any doubt that Trump's regime has declared an open war, an open season on all immigrants in this country, that doubt should have evaporated by now. With Daniel's arrest, we have seen the federal government breaking its promise and shown that it cannot be trusted.
Well, also joining us from Seattle is Tim Warden-Hertz, is the directing attorney for the Tacoma office of the Northwest Immigrant Rights Project. Welcome to Democracy Now! Could you tell us about the situation with the arrest of Mr. Ramirez on Friday?
That's right. Well, on Friday, the judge in Seattle ordered that Mr. Ramirez remain detained in the Tacoma Detention Center, and right now we're focusing on trying to ensure that his constitutional rights are protected. He, like you discussed, he has no criminal record at all. He's been twice applied for and been vetted and been granted protection under Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, and despite that, he was picked up by immigration officials.
But why are they holding him then? If he is protected under DACA, what are they alleging?
Well, at this point, they haven't put forward any evidence. I think there have been some statements that they've made regarding possible gang membership. Again, I think Mr. Ramirez and we certainly dispute that. And as I mentioned, there is absolutely no evidence of that given. And in fact, in the filings that we submitted to the court in Seattle, there is evidence of even some fabrications of evidence regarding that.
Well, what are your concerns about not only what the Trump administration has done so far, but now the word of these memos that Secretary Kelly has signed off on how that could affect undocumented immigrants or people who are or DACA recipients? What are your main concerns?
Yeah, I think you touched on some of them. I think that, and I think Mr. Ramirez's case actually is a good example of sort of the lack of process that we may be seeing sort of expanded under this administration. So I think the expansion of expedited removal is certainly one piece of that. I think it is dramatic, as you mentioned, up to 2 years of having been in the United States. But I think it goes even further than that because the memos discuss, having to prove to the satisfaction of an immigration officer that you've been in the United States for 2 years, or else you're subject to this expedited removal where you're deported without a chance to even have a day in court. I think about that, if I were pulled over, I'm not sure if that I could prove, right, that I've been in the United States for 2 years, just based on what I have in my wallet. And so, I think that there's a lot of these other pieces, whether it's that or whether it's hearing programs held at remote county jails or prisons, or the protections being taken away for unaccompanied minors that again really chip away at the chance for people to even have a process to figure out whether or not they might have protections under the laws that exist.
Well, if you could explain more clearly to folks who are not familiar with immigration law, on this expedited removal situation, how the changing of the definition affects so many more people, because wasn't it before this, you had to have been found within, 100 miles of a U.S. border or have been in the country less than, was it 2 weeks or 2 months, and now they've expanded it to 2 years? Explain the difference.
That's right. Yeah. So the the existing regulations around that I think stem from 2002. They limited the use of expedited removal to folks who are found within 100 miles of the border and within 2 weeks of having entered the United States. So there's that sort of time and location limitation on expedited removal. And again, what these memos would do would remove that, and so it would leave anyone in the United States subject to expedited removal unless they could prove to the satisfaction of the immigration officer who's arresting them that they've been in the United States for more than 2 years. So it takes away any geographic limitation and then creates at least a hugely expanded and again, like I mentioned before, maybe not even that limited 2-year temporal limitation.